right, welcome back. Episode 53 of the Young Old Heads podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tommy, aka TV Sports Cards, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host Max, aka Cards Max, aka Cards Max, Jimmy Butler, is him edition after game 2. Max, how you doing?
I'm good. Feels good to be on episode 53. We've been at like half a year or so at this point. Failed lottery raffle edition, Tops UEFA, Inception, Parallel, Cherry Blossom.
I'll get better at that next week. 53 was my basketball number in middle school. Very important number to me in my life. Another very important person in my life is our guest this week, Will. Will, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I've actually been collecting TV Sports Card 53 jersey match cards. So
those are hard to find.
Yeah, and now you just
don't like
it. Spot, so.
Yeah, they don't like that number because it's above 50. Once you get above 50, you can't get jersey numbered gold Topps Chrome refractors. Then what's even the point of life if you can't do that?
Yeah, you might as well quit.
Might as well quit.
I wish I had a gold refractor of my 2006 T-ball card, but I only have the paper base.
Only paper base. That's a tough one. Will, do you want to do a little intro? Who you are? Why you're on the podcast? Hype yourself up a little bit.
Sure. So I'm Will. So really mainly like my kind of entry point and kind of how I've become interested in a hobby essentially is I work for a company called Rally, which if people know, it's an app for buying and selling equity shares and collectible assets. But as one of the categories on there, we've got a shit ton of sports cards. Like we have a Honus Wagner T206 card. We go through the list of just like iconic cards.
Yep.
And pretty, when I started, it was like 2020. So if people have long enough memories, they know that things were going on in the card world in 2021.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a lot of what we were doing. So that was like my first entry it was my first job, right? So my first entry into work/Rally was like cards. And I just got obsessed.
That's crazy. I can't imagine that being your first job out of college, going straight there. That's pretty dope. Max, how did you and Will meet?
I think he sent me a cold DM.
Cold DM.
Yeah, that's probably like, hey man.
Which I mean, for the LinkedIn networker superhuman is, I mean, it's very flattering. Like, oh, this guy from Rally is in my DMs. But the cold approach works in all aspects of life.
I was probably buying a card from you.
No, you weren't. You were like, let's set up a call. And I'm like, oh, this is very professional. Let's do it.
And then you came into the office.
Yeah, I did. And then I held some cards in my hand. Will had me at the Rally Road office. Will is based in New York, and I believe he is from Long Island as well, originally. I am from Long Island. I like Long Island. I enjoy Long Island. Long Island will not be part of me forever. But that being said, I took the nice little train to the city one quaint day. I had some time to kill before going to the Bleecker Trading Trade Night that evening. And Will hosted me at the Rally office, where I got to, I would say play with some toys, but that I wouldn't want any bad soundbite of how I treated them. But I treated a fine amount. I was treated to being able to hold and possess and enjoy and marvel at very carefully a ton of very nice sports cards.
And in return, I got to see Cobb. So
yes, you got to see the thank you Cobb, the Tolstoy.
Well, that one's gone. The one that's gone now.
The one that's gone, yeah. You had to enjoy the glimpse while you still could, which is another aspect of life that goes unfailed.
Well, you're one of the few people in the world who have daily access to a T206 Honus Wagner, which is, some collectors would say, is a collector's dream. Were you a card collector before Rally? Was that part of your ethos early on in life, or is this something you've kind of come to later in life?
So growing up, like, in retrospect, definitely just a collector of things. I had plenty of baseball cards. I love baseball. Like, I'm a huge Yankees history nerd. Like, I barely watch baseball today, but like I read about old Yankees shit every day, you know?
Yeah.
So, always collected cards. I didn't give it much thought. I just thought they were cool and I had them. I also had a bunch of Simpsons DVDs. I wanted every season, right? Like, so I didn't even think about it as one category, but
what other shit were you collecting back in the day?
Let's see. I used to get like Mad Magazine, and I used to keep all of them. Same thing with like Sports Illustrated. I used to keep a bunch of magazines, and then it got pretty unruly. But
from what a little birdie told me that you have quite the Emmanuel Quickly and R.J. Barrett stash of cardboard. Was that little birdie telling me the truth?
Yeah, that little birdie is correct. I have to tell you, it's been quite an up and down. I'll say IQ, just never in doubt. RJ though, looking bad for a while until the playoffs, but I'm feeling good.
So the synopsis is RJ sometimes doubt, Emmanuel Quickly do not doubt.
Never.
And I love having two Knicks fans on the podcast at once. The pity party can be deep. It can be
no pity parties anymore.
No.
All up from here.
Yes.
I can't wait.
Sports are a form of tribalism, said no one ever.
Yes. Will, do you want to? What I found very interesting about the content that you put out there in the universe is that you keep things very like human, like interest focused. So you have stories that you post. I think you posted yesterday meaning any other day that happened this week. A ticket from Michael Jordan's free throw line dunk contest night, and I think you said it was the highest graded one. You made the case that this is an important ticket, and I will put aside the fact that you are the owner of this and I have a vested interest in people thinking this ticket is cool. But what is your general like philosophy for things that you like to collect? Like, are you going for things that have a lot of sentimental value to you specifically, or are you going for like big pop culture, important moments in history type things?
So I mean, I'm not dropping big money. Like I'm not like you two guys out there ballers with wads of hundreds. Like I think when I first jumped in, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna fucking buy a bunch of like shitty wax and rip it and I'll be rich. Yeah. And fast forward, it turned out it didn't make me rich, unfortunately. But I did learn that I should probably just not try and be like some serious like card investor when there's people that can do that, right? But for me and my personal collection, with the money I'm spending and the time I'm actually devoting to it, it's so much more just like, I think that's dope and it's cheap, I'm gonna buy it. But I've had DCs over the years that we'll definitely get to that overrode that, but like for the most part, yeah, like that. I don't even really like Jordan. I just thought it was way underpriced. It was like, I think it was like $150 or something. But
I feel like
Max first.
Oh, great. Yeah. I was going to say, Tommy is the champion of buying $20 to $50 cards that have the coolness factor of a $300 card. This has been expressed at eons ago in this podcast, maybe in the episodes of the tens, but I had my very short little ticket binge. And Tommy is a Warriors fan, and I found a ticket stub I found two ticket stubs, one of which I still have. I found a Dennis Rodman getting his career high rebounds in a single game on the road ticket stub for $10. I kept that for myself. And I believe I found Mitch Richmond's, from the Golden State Warriors Run TMC era of basketball. I believe it was his most. I think it was career high in 3-pointers. I want to say in a game. I don't think it was career high points.
I think it was playoff career high in points, but I think my argument for tickets is that tickets are just too much Tim Kirchin. This is the first time that this event happened. This is the ticket from that game, sort of thing. Where it's like
it's all right. You ungrateful fuck. It was $10.
Well, first of all, I'm grateful of anything that Max gifted me.
I'm joking.
But Will, I do really resonate with the fact that I love cheap, cool stuff. I'm all about as cheap of card you can buy, that's as cool as possible. Whatever that little graph I can make would be with coolness and cheapness on the axes. That's what it's all about for me. And that's why I think that like collecting in general is something that everyone loves doing. And most people that I talk to who even aren't into cards have some sort of weird thing they collect. And there's always a reason why. And there's always some sort of like, well, this isn't that expensive sort of aspect to it. You know, we're all dudes in their 20s. Max, we all are not making bank out here. Max is kind of using this more as a financial way of making money, which means that he ends up with some cards that are worth a lot, but he wouldn't necessarily be buying those.
Yeah, Tommy has one. Tommy and Will have those things that people call real jobs, and I will soon be transitioning to that in the very imminent future, likely.
Well, I do want to talk about working in the hobby though, Will, because I did dabble. You know, I worked as social media manager for LEDX for a year. I got to meet a lot of people who were doing stuff in the hobby. What are some of the what are some I don't want you to have to talk too much about your actual job, but like what are some of like the personal things that have happened or cool experiences you've gotten to have because of the job that you do have?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, one of them is I became really obsessed with the T206 Wagner, like in a not like a super healthy way. So I'm you know, I studied journalism in school, and like I consider myself a writer. Like outside of Rally, I write a newsletter that has nothing to do with cards, and that's something that, you know, is important to me and I love doing. And I do a lot of writing for Rally, but you know, I've always wanted to write a book, and I've started a few and whatever. And the furthest I've gotten was on the T206 Wagner, with each chapter being a different Wagner in its story. You know, like the one that Rally has is the Nuns Wagner, which is a really great story about like being left in a will to a group of nuns who found it and were like, what? And Googled it. They were like, yo, no way.
Wait, can you real quick do the story on that card? Because yeah. I am a little ignorant on it personally and have never been told like all the details. I know that like
you've never held it in your hand like Will and I have. I don't mean to
Max held it. He instantly it uploaded to his brain and he knew the entire.
But I don't mean to gatekeep, but I do mean to gatekeep.
So yeah, so there's this dude who bought it. Definitely pre-1950. I want to say in the 30s, like around the time that like that first baseball catalog that lists like the Wagner as like a $50 card, the Jefferson Burdick one. Yeah. But by the way, fucking that guy's so cool. His gravestone says like greatest collector ever. It's fucking lit. But
so cool. Yeah, he is the lit. He's the lit.
And his stuff's still in the MoMA. If you guys
really
go to the back, you have to like beg 15 people that work there to tell you where it is because it's like hidden away. But anyway, so this dude buys it. Let's call it the 30s, give or take 10 or 20 years. And I believe he was never married. His only family was his sister, who was a member of the Notre Dame Sisters of Baltimore, a nunnery. And he was involved with them a lot and stuff. And he died around early 2000s. And in his will, he left his house, his you know, whatever money he had, and a lockbox to his group of nuns. And in the lockbox was the Wagner that he had bought for, you know, I don't know, fucking $100 or something crazy. And it said something along the lines of, I do hope that this card may appreciate in value in the future.
The exact quote I see is, "Although damaged, the value of this baseball card should increase exponentially throughout the 21st century."
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So the nuns got
How are we
it.
doing here?
Sister June, I believe, was the treasurer. She whips up Google. She's like, oh no, holy shit. And they sold it. I think actually the first guy didn't pay, and then they sold it again. Got some pretty big media attention. And then eventually that was maybe 10 years, 15 years before we got it in like 2019 on Rally. And then we IPO'd it for a couple $100,000, and now it's worth maybe, I don't know, between 1.5 and 2, depending on the day. I'm not sure.
That is, I mean, what a day to be a nun treasurer.
It's gotta be the best, as far as like, days at work as the treasurer of a nunnery. It's probably the best they've had.
It's got to be one of the best. That got to be a day where you really believe in God as a nun.
Yeah, there. Exactly.
That's like, this is literally.
She was like, guys, I believed it, but like now I'm all in.
brings a whole new level to the Holy Grail aspect of card collecting. That's a crazy story. I know that every single person who listens to this podcast would love to read a book about different versions of the Hannes Wagner and the stories behind them. So I'm gonna say, please write that book, finish it, please. Just even if it's just for our listeners, I'd appreciate it.
Put out the 6 chapters I have. I just don't want to write them. The stories get worse and worse. It's like the first few are awesome. There's the Charlie Sheen Wagner. There's the one that's like the Gretzky Wagner, which is the first card VSA ever graded, right? Like, and then you start to kind of be like, all right, this is not actually that interesting.
Low Joe O'Doyle.
Yeah, there's some lame ones. There's the trimmed one.
That's the Gretzky one.
Is that the Gretzky one? That's trimmed.
Yes.
Or there's probably a few trimmed ones, but that is the trimmed one. But
yeah, that's the PSA 8.
Yeah. Yes. But
not fucking wild.
That's crazy. Will, what are some of the other books that you have started but not finished? Just throw the unless you do want to hold these close to your chest and not let those.
No, yeah. I mean, super nerdy. I was really obsessed with like kind of, it's pretty political, but like kind of different ways of distributing universal basic income and like just different ways to value property and stuff. So I was kind of writing a history on this dude, Henry George, which I ended up like publishing on like Medium, but whatever. And a few other things that never really got as much traction as the other two. But I mean, I write every week on my newsletter, like a lot of different topics that I think I want to put into a collection at some point.
Cool. Can you give the elevator pitch for your newsletter for people listening?
Sure. Yeah. So go to my Twitter and it's the link. It's Unwinding the Thread. It's literally just stories I think are cool. So it's anything from like how the most recent one was how Tamagotchis were like the precursor to like everything wrong with society, because they were like the first time that like humans were like so fucking addicted because they had to feed this living thing that wasn't living. To like, I wrote about like the crazy industry of luxury handbags.
The handbag industry is nuts. We'll cut out there for a second, but I know that in the King of Collectibles, Max, there's a really good scene with your girl Laura Golden where she talks about how much she loves Gucci bags. That's a great little scene there. But Max, while it's just me and you and Will's trying to reconnect here, what was the craziest shit that you saw while you're at the Rally Road office, other than the Hannes Wagner?
There was a Hank Aaron 1954 Topps PSA 8.5 that was jaw-droppingly stunning. That very much caught my eye. The Honus is the Honus, and that's hard to dispute. They also had, I think it was a PSA 7 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle, and the resolution and registration and color of these 1950s Topps cards are inexplainable when you get to hold them in your hand and they're not covered by a Pyrex glass case with a big bodyguard guarding them at all times. And it doesn't really translate well online. There is a visual difference to see. I know I might be saying stuff that's very given, but and basic, but the color on these cards is indescribable. As you can tell, I am having an inability describing the color of this 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle and this 1954 Hank Aaron, but that was the most surprising non-Wagner piece I held in my hand, as well as Will had a coin which was the first depiction of Jesus Christ on a coin. Will, you're muted.
You're muted, Will, but I want to talk coins. This is crazy. What?
So I'm not a huge coin. I don't have a ton of knowledge on coins just because we only have 2 right now. But that one, yeah, it's like created by Justinian during like one of the Byzantine rules. And it was the first time Christ was like actually depicted on a coin. Super controversial at the time. It's, 3,000 years ago or something. Nope, that's an idiotic statement. 1,500
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't it 530
yeah.
AD?
That's crazy. That's crazy. Because I know depictions of Jesus were real controversial when they started happening, but
I think it was like a fuck you to the Catholic Church at the time because there was like those kind of schism shit going on. But
as a Catholic goer my whole life, I can second that for sure. Will, you seem to have some interest in politics, or at least political worlds. And while we stay apolitical for the most part here,
and in sports analysis,
and we stay out of sports analysis for the most part, but I do want to get your ideas on if you've looked into kind of the collectible world of politics. I know that there's like a big history of like campaign pins from the U.S. that go back pretty far. I'm a big presidential card collector in the sense that I am very familiar with the famous ones and the big ones, like the Carmel one that if you go back, there's an old episode with Sunsport Trading Co., who we did a whole bit about that card and that set and stuff. But is there anything cool or weird that you've noticed about the political world of collecting?
There's a ton of weird shit. Nixon, who I'm super fascinated by, just like, I'll put it out there. Not a huge fan of him politically. However, like there's a book called it's something about the 2 sides of Nixon or duality of Nixon, whatever. It talks about kind of both sides. Just such a fascinating historical figure. So like I've got 2 books of Nixon books signed by him. One of them to fucking Wilt Chamberlain.
Oh shit.
Which was like, what? Yeah, I have no idea why or how or who, but that I think is cool. I've got this ridiculous watch that looks like it should be on a 6-year-old, but it's a picture of Nixon. It says something about like you can't trick our dick or something like that. But yeah, pins are huge. Like I know the JFK campaign pin's huge. Hake's auction sells a lot of those. I feel like they're probably the leaders in that.
That's cool. I feel like the world of presidents is something that interests me very much, and U.S. history is something that I've been into. I'm a big like hardcore history Dan Carlin fan. I put Max onto that. I don't know if you're a fan, Will, but he's a big influence on.
He's
on
the
me.
OG.
He's the OG of podcasting, kind of, right? Like he's been doing it since like 2004 or something crazy. If you are into history and then never heard that, and you're listening to this podcast, you should stop listening to this podcast. The only time I'll say this, and go listen to some Dan Carlin. You will learn a crazy amount of stuff. But I mean, I love the coin collecting kind of parallels with cards just because there's like a good history of it. It's been something that's been going on for a while. I think the U.S. history stuff, like, I don't think cards are like the most collectible thing that you can have for a president. I think there's the campaign stuff is a little bit more collectible. But I also love the fact that like presidents, their images are public domain, right? So like any company can make a card of a president, which I think is an underrated thing when it comes to like, we talk about licenses, me and Max a lot, like when Fanatics came around and Topps and everything, anyone can print anything with the president's face on it. And it's a legal thing to do. You can sell it. You can do whatever the fuck you want. I think that's an amazing thing out there in the world that you can do. And like, I don't think these people are doing enough on the card level for that, because like it's just public domain. Like, you should take advantage of it more than they are. Like, I think that'd be cool, but I feel like that's a random fact that not as many people know about, but that got to come up often.
There's no need for Panini to make a Monopoly variant of presidential trading cards so that they don't lose their exclusive licensing and then are completely obsolete. Since presidents,
now that you say that, that'd be kind of dope. Like Woodrow Wilson on Park Place, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that shit.
Also, wait, I'd be remiss talking about presidential collectibles. I do. So University Archives sells some amazing relics, not in cards, just in their own little slabs. I have a piece of JFK's sweater.
That's sick.
Just like a sweater. I don't know where anymore, but
no.
They also sell like the curtain from Ford Theater when Lincoln was shot. Some wild shit.
Wow, that's cool. I feel like that could be. I feel like if I was Topps, I'd be trying to go after that. I know they've done George Washington hair relics before. I know some other crazy shit like that, but I'm looking to see more innovation in the card world on the pop culture end. That's something that I talk about a lot, and I think that U.S. history is just like the perfect thing to keep taking advantage of. One of my favorite sets that I talked about in past episodes is 2009 Topps American Heritage, that has a good job of like kind of giving cards and some recognition to some of the biggest U.S. history people from throughout the 8 years. That's a great set. But that's from 2009. And like now we're in 2023. That's 14 years ago. You're telling me they can put out 70 different NBA sets, but no one's going to put out like a nice, good quality U.S. history set? I don't know. That's a gripe for me.
I second that. I'm pissed off about that as well.
Nice. Well, let's get into cards though. I wanted to hear more about your card collection. You're buying IQ, you're buying some RJ. What are you going for? Because me and Max, we've talked about basketball card collecting. It's a little difficult these days with like how many sets there are. Not a lot of history to all of them. What were you targeting with those guys?
With basketball specifically, I just love the Knicks so much. So, like, you know, I've got a good amount of Clyde Frazier, who greatest person to ever be recorded speaking in history. That's an actual fact. You can look it up. But so, you know, that's obviously vintage, but like, I'm a Knicks fan, so every time a player scores more than like 6 points, I'm pretty sure that they're Jesus. So I have to buy their cards. And IQ I've just loved. I've got some Quentin Grimes, who I think is fucking baller. But I mean, that is to what we were saying earlier. Like, I'm not under any, as much of I'm a delusional Knicks fan, I'm not delusional that my, you know, IQ gold out of 10 or whatever is going to be worth, you know, 50 grand. Like, I'm not an idiot, but that's, you know, it's almost like just doubling down on like fandom when it comes to something like that.
Are you a gambler?
A bit. I bet on the Knicks. I bet on teams I'm already rooting for, but I'm not. It's, you know, if I'm not like gonna bet on like an Australian cricket game just because I'm bored, and you know, which I have some friends that are into that. Like, that's not my thing.
Same with me. I think I love that concept of like doubling down on your fandom. I feel like that's kind of what I do in the sense, but like I have the extra security.
It's a little more profitable as a Golden State Warriors fan.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I'm spend a little bit more money than I would if I was a Knicks fan, and that's something we've talked about before.
Mr. Lucky Collector over here.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I refer to myself as well, as a lucky collector, because I get to spend more money than I would because of the things that I like being very, you know, successful. Knicks fan, can't say the same. Are you buying them? Like, you an autograph guy, you a relic guy, you a refractor guy? Like, what catches your eye when it comes to cards?
So, I mean, I'm really not a huge modern collector. Like, and I'd say, so the biggest thing in my collection by 50x is tennis cards. So like if you guys are familiar with the 2003 Net Pro tennis set.
Oh yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know about it, it has the rookie cards for Serena Williams, Venus Williams, Roger Federer, Nadal, Roddick, Marty Fish, like, you know, Davenport. It's insane because there were no other tennis sets, right?
Yeah.
So I couldn't even tell you, like, hundreds.
That's crazy.
Slabs.
Max, we've never talked about that set.
I don't think we've ever dived into it.
Well, that's good timing because Topps Chrome Tennis is out on Topps.com right now. I haven't checked out the checklist of that set, but I know the 2003 Net Pro set. I've seen it. Are you buying then base, or do you buy like the relics they got in there? I know they have some other. I know they have patch autos that go for $1 billion, but
yeah. So like Serena's probably my favorite athlete ever. I mean, definitely greatest tennis player of all time. Her and Federer to me are my favorites, but. So huge Serena collection. She's obviously extremely expensive. So I've got, I think, 2 of her relic cards. Neither of them signed. They're like it's the 1D where the 1A is the auto patch, and it gets worse and worse. And I've got plenty of like, Sampras patches, which, you can get for like $30.
Crazy that you can get that shit for that cheap.
Yeah. But so I actually had something really cool happen recently. I bought an Andy Roddick. I've got a bunch of Roddick cards as well because he's from that set. And I bought one of his, these patch cards. And I got it. I like sent it to PWCC right from eBay. They then did the BGS grade thing that they do, the hookup partnership. And I just tweeted out like, "Hey, got this Andy Roddick BGS whatever card." Andy Roddick replied to it and was like, he was like, "I wouldn't trust it, like only in a PSA slab." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do that now." And he's like, "All right, if you do, I'll sign it." And I'm like, "Okay, you're my childhood hero. I'll do anything you say."
Dude, that is literally why Twitter is the best in like a nutshell right there. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like I didn't tag him or anything. I was like, why are you? You've got a lot of things going. You're married to Brooklyn Decker. Why are you like?
Why are you searching your own name in Twitter search? Like, Max, have you ever had any like famous people reply to you on Twitter? I feel like you gotta
have. Well, there's the world famous one from when I traded away my T206 Ty Cobb that Tommy, you can further disclose.
Well, no, come on, you got to tell the story. I told it last time. You got to tell it to Will, and then I know Will has an anecdote about this dude. I'm sure.
Yeah. So Keith Olberman chirped at me a little bit, who is an esteemed card collector, on how I traded away my Ty Cobb T206 red portrait for a bunch of modern junk and an off-centered mantle and Ted Williams. I wish I could find the tweet that he quoted because it was pretty funny.
Keith Olberman, big dick, loves cards, but is just like a hater on fun, hates good vibes. Hated on my friend Max, so I have beef with Keith Olberman now. But
I'll sign up.
Did you previously like Keith Olberman?
No.
When I was like a teenager for a little bit, he like got back on ESPN, I think towards the end of my high school run. And I liked his like kind of snarkiness during my puberty times. But then I got older and realized, oh, wait, you're actually just a dick and like no one likes you. So that's different.
So his direct comment was some modern junk plus off condition mantle and Teddy for a Cobb ?
He has, I don't think he's working right now. Like he's not. But for real, I would love to read an oral history of his career because he started off, he was really talented at ESPN, like no doubt. And then like, I don't know if he got pushed out, whatever happened. He started doing political commentary, and then people kind of were like, okay, this guy's a little different than we thought. And then just like psychopath in like every direction.
Yeah, I read that ESPN oral history book way back in the day.
Those guys have all the fun.
Yeah, I think that's like 2014 or something. I love that. I was a big Bill Simmons head in middle school going out. So like his transition from ESPN to Grantland to The Ringer was something that I followed and like got kind of more into the ESPN world of stuff. I was Grantland for shit. Yeah, Grantland. I feel like everyone who listens to this podcast probably read Grantland back in the day. That's like kind of my last like internet page that I would refresh every day reading stuff. Since then, I don't think I've really had any like home of the internet where I would actually read articles greater than 100 words. I would love like, I don't know. That's a big influence for sure.
I was the sports editor of the paper in college. I went to the University of Wisconsin, and I just did straight up Bill Simmons impressions. And I get super angry letters from like old like people who were in my position when they were in college, and now they're at like the Wall Street Journal or something, and they're like, "You're ruining the sanctity of this," because I was talking about how like Jonathan Taylor was like a bourgeois class of running back in the proletariat offensive lineman, like just like trying to be funny and talking shit. But I actually wrote something about this for the newsletter that I do about just like how influential Bill Simmons was. Like he was, he was one of the, he innovated a lot on the internet, not just with his writing, but also like podcasts and stuff. But like he was really willing to like strip back the curtain of like that faux seriousness that these reporters had. And he was like, nah, I like to talk about, I'm going to talk about the Fast and the Furious and the Warriors. And I'm going to tell you that Steph Curry is exactly like Vin Diesel. And here's why, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you know that Bill Simmons actually was on the Topps board for a while? I don't know if he is anymore, but he's been in the card game in some capacity for a long time. Me and Max are famous, or I'm personally love hating on his decision for the Ringer card podcast. But I know that he's like, that's something that is big in his realm of things. I know that I think he's a collector. I think he's kind of an investor almost, though, from what I've heard from him and the anecdotes. More on the investing.
He has a crazy pre-war collection.
Oh, he has a pre-war collection. Interesting.
I believe so.
I learned a lot about basketball history from his basketball book, the Book of Basketball. That has a big influence on my basketball card collecting for who I think is cool and who I don't collect and stuff like that. But yeah, that's crazy. I love that you write stuff. I am a amateur writer for myself. I like to journal and write fiction-y stuff sometimes. Not that anyone sees it, but I do it for myself kind of more so. So I respect that you read.
Motivation is the best kind.
Yeah. If you're not writing for yourself, one of my most fun fact about myself, Will, as a U.S. history person, you might respect, or I don't know. I don't really bring this up that often, but it is kind of fun. You're a writer. You might appreciate this. My great-grandma's brother, so my great-great-uncle, her only sibling was F. Scott Fitzgerald. So I have been kind of on a mission to find all of F. Scott Fitzgerald's cards. He does not have a ton of them. None of them were made before 2000. But
have you even traveled to East Egg and West Egg before, Tommy?
Dude. Awesome. Yeah, so that's my little fun fact about myself.
We have to get you into the rally office. Well, now the museum's about to be open, and we've got our first edition Great Gatsby that you can.
For real?
Yeah.
Do you know the history of that first edition Gatsby? Did you have to read up on that?
I mean, the history around the book is I feel like pretty well known. What I found really interesting is the cover, which is called Celestial Eyes, by an artist who's I believe he's French, and I'm not going to be able to pull his name up, but there's a great letter that F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote to his editor because he was behind on writing the book, and he had already seen the cover. And he's like, if you give this to someone else, I'll fucking kill you. Like, he was like, this is mine. I don't care if I'm late. Like, you better not give this cover away.
Oh, dude, I would love to see that book. But Will, I would be remiss if we didn't like talk a little bit about Rally and kind of where you see the future of the hobby going. Me and Max do have an episode in the bank about fractionalization, investing on that sort of thing. I think there is a place for it. I think it's cool in a lot of capacities. It was some weird, liquidity is something that me and Max talk about a lot. Like, it's hard to sell shit. It's really hard to sell a card if you're just a random person who just like finds a really valuable card. The process of you finding that to you getting money in your hand for that card can often be way more painful than it needs to be. I don't know if you want to give your little pitch on what Rally as the future, or like, where do you buy cards personally right now? Are you buying in vaults? Like, I know Max buys a lot on PWCC. I buy mainly on eBay, on Twitter, and I do buy on ComC, which is also a vault. Where do you see it going?
I'll take the Rally question first, and then we can. So yeah, I mean, I'm not, I'm here just to talk shit with you guys, to have fun, but I'll, of course, company man, I believe in Rally, a ton. So I'm happy to talk about it. And I think that, I think everyone should really give it a shot. So I think as I mentioned earlier, so we're a platform for buying and selling equity shares and collectibles of all sorts, like not just cards. We talked about Great Gatsby. We've literally got the Declaration of Independence. We've got a bunch of cars. That's Rally Road started as classic cars, comic books, everything, whiskey. And we were the first to do fractional. There's other companies that have come and gone in the time since, but we were the first to do it, before me, but the founders were the first to do it. And it's in my mind, it's like, look, I'd love to own a T206 Honus. I'll put it out there. I don't think I'm going to own one. There's only 60. They tend to sell for a few million. I just don't think it's in the cards.
No.
So like, assuming other people are like me, which, considering there's only 60 of them, probably most of them are, you can participate in the upside and have you're owning a real equity piece. I mean, people have no issue investing in Nike and being like, well, you don't really own part of the company. It's like, well, no, you buy Nike products, you understand why Nike's a cool brand and business, etc. And there's a lot of emotions tied up in things like Nike and Apple, etc. And yeah, so I mean, as far as where the industry is going, I think that we're going to see a lot of exciting stuff come from Rally in the next year. But one that I can talk about, like, because it's happening next week, is we're launching our museum. So people are gonna walk down the street on Broadway in Soho, look through a window, see a 1955 Porsche Speedster next to a Triceratops skull with an Andy Warhol in the background, T206 Honus, like, you name it. It'll be rotating in and out with all of our assets. And like, to me, it's a museum where you can own everything inside is kind of the tagline, right? And that's something pretty beautiful to me. But I don't want to be pitching, Rally.
You're good. I just wanted to get a little sense of what interests you about it, because like,
for sure,
when I was working at Ludex, I was not necessarily like saying that the product was the best thing on earth, but I did think that what we were doing was very cool, and that there was a lot of cool things that was happening that like could make the hobby a little bit more accessible to people. It could maybe help grow it 10x. The famous 10x fanatics is going to grow the hobby 10x bullshit. There needs to be investments into infrastructure that makes it more accessible to people. I think that Rally does that. I think in some capacity, Ludex is doing that too, in a much different capacity, obviously. But Max, you don't own any. You're not on Rally Road, Max, are you?
That is correct.
Have you ever thought about it? What?
I have the app. I have the app downloaded.
Max downloads the app right now in person.
No, I have it downloaded.
No. Oh, you have it downloaded. My bad.
I have it downloaded.
Well, I think that's interesting. I don't know. I'm just here as an appreciator of cards, of collectibles. I think that people doing different things is good. Competition is good. I would much rather see Rally Road Museum than like a golden auction museum or something like that. Just based on
the TV Sports Cards Vault.
The TV Sports Cards Vault is in my apartment anyone's welcome to come and check it out. I was showing my friend last night one of my piece of space shuttle relics that I have. Amazing one. Those are good.
What space shuttle?
I have no fucking idea.
Challenger.
Challenger.
That might be the easiest one to find. I don't know.
Challenger relic coming soon to Leaf. That's definitely a Brian Leaf card. Gotta be.
What was the thing they did like last month? It was like
Oh,
Putin and Zelensky.
Yeah, they did the Putin one. That's classic.
They did a Putin relic?
Yeah, not relic.
Not a relic, just a card of like it'd be funny to show them fighting or something, and then immediately I think they got people saying, "Yo, what the fuck?"
Yeah, that's
how many people greenlit that?
I think there's one dude in charge there. His name is Brian Gray. He's a little eccentric.
He made the Pete Weber who do you think you are I am card, so
yeah, he has good moments and he has bad moments, and me and Max like to track the trials and tribulations of him as a random dude in the card world who has access to printers that are greater access than we do.
You guys are the
real human being,
arbiters of morality and hobby journalists in this world. You're the last two.
I see he has a $7.99 or $7.99 2023 Leaf Newsflash. Ron DeSantis announces candidacy live on Twitter with Elon Musk, and the card goes out of stock tomorrow on June 6th, and it's a picture of Ron DeSantis and Elon Musk.
Classic.
Meatball Ron.
Yeah, keep them coming. Will, where do you buy cards, or where do you buy your collectibles? Are you mainly lurking on eBay? Are you looking on the auction sites?
I love a weird auction. I love an auction site or an auction that isn't supposed, like whether it's sports or historical memorabilia, when the auction is about something else and they just throw a few things in there and you find it. It's my favorite thing in the world.
Do you have any good ones that you found throughout the years?
Yeah, I mean, let's see. I got to be honest. I don't want to say, not because I don't want to give it away, but because it's kind of shitting on the auction house.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. I'm not going to make you shit on an auction house. That's for me and Max to do.
No, now you're.
Well, we work with these people. You know, I'm not going to lie about anything, but I don't want to. You know.
Yeah.
Don't incriminate myself.
No, me and Max have a bit where, you know, this is not Will's opinion, but there's some auction sites that are lacking in their writing side of things and providing context to why their products are cool or why the thing is cool. I think that's like one of the biggest fuck ups out there from auction houses is like, you are not writing enough about your shit. I'm sure you agree with that, Will.
Have you guys talked about that often? That's one of my big hobby horses.
Yeah. I think it came up when the Luca NT came out, and there was this whole like train metaphor that Heritage or someone put out there that was like so convoluted and weird, and you're like, dude, just tell me why this card is cool. Don't tell me like some weird story of metaphor for the card or whatever. But yeah, you have like cool stuff where like I think the most recent example on the podcast was like there's this card that Max owns that has Joe Jackson sliding on it, and it's like confirmed that it's Joe Jackson. And there is a listing where it doesn't even mention that Joe Jackson's on the card. And it's like, how are you missing?
Let's say you get the deal.
The listing where I bought it from did not include Joe Jackson on the card from BCC.
So, Will, if you were an auction house, I'm guessing you would invest a little more on the writing side.
I mean, this is not cards, but like Sotheby's and Christie's and the lot essays that they write are beautiful. Like they're gorgeous writing. They're legit prose. And yeah, I mean, like a lot of these sites are doing 1,000 cards a week, and that's not possible. But like, you know, give it a little romance. Like,
yeah, that's what collecting is all about. That was one of my biggest gripes with Did you watch the King of Collectibles as well?
Yeah, I watched it. My boss, our chief product officer, Rob Petrozzo, is in episode 6.
Oh, with the house, right? The house scene. Yeah, so that was one of my biggest gripes is like they talk about how we'll make sure that the story of your thing is told, and everyone will know how cool your thing is. And I've seen some golden. I'm not going to make you comment on this, Will. I'll let Max comment if he wants. But like golden, particularly, I feel like sometimes really shits the bed on like not providing enough context for what the thing is, or like they get all these cool cards, but then some of them slip through the cracks because you have, 10 logo man ahead of it, and then you have this cool like vintage or cool like niche refractor piece that you don't give any time of day to, and then it ends up kind of not getting as much hype that it could, which is concerning to me and something that I don't know. Me and Max think we've talked a little bit, Will, about kind of having like a database for cards that has more context to why certain things are cool. It's just an idea that we've thrown around a little bit. Like a collectible database doesn't really exist, right? Like where are you researching your Hannes Wagner piece? Where would you go for information on that? Is that just like random news articles?
Yeah, I mean, this is like, I'm gonna sound like a douche. This is about writing generally, not Wagner, but like, if you just fucking look up contemporaneous articles, you'll find some amazing shit. You'll find information that people don't talk about anymore because it's on the Wayback Machine from 1999, and you might have to go to some sketchy websites or something, but you find it, right? And yeah, to your point, it's not aggregated. And I think even without that aggregation tool, we have, I think, gotten to a point where there's been enough high profile sales and just sales overall as this industry has evolved and the writing has gotten better, that at least it's kind of being referenced, right? You can tell when someone kind of rewrites a lot essay maybe, but yeah, that's the closest thing we have to is like a true like card history card in a statement of significance per card versus just like sales history or something.
Yeah, I like the statement of importance or whatever, the statement of why something is cool. Max, you do some writing on the side, no?
In what context?
About cards. You do some card blogging on occasion.
Yeah, sometimes I like blogging about cards.
Do you like writing about cards though, or is that just something you do for the money?
No, I never do anything just for the money. But writing about cards is fun. Writing about my perspective on cards is fun, and guiding others on how I make money in cards or opportunities I see in cards is also good.
Well, you're one of the few people that kind of believe that though, Max, because I feel like most people are kind of hugging, keep the secrets close to chest when it comes to cards. You get a lot of these shitty dealers who
I mean, even if it's just in the form of tweets, I'm very open about what I buy and what I sell and why I do what I do. And adding my max tax or not adding my max tax, I do not add any tax on my cards. That was a joke.
Yeah.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the end of the day. And I try to provide as much transparency in why I think something is cool as possible. And for the most part, I mean, I was like half tempted last night to just tweet out about a card that like I lost bidding on and I got into a bidding war, but it looked really, really nice. It looked really nice.
You're gonna tease us like this and not tell us what this card is?
It is I'm sorry, I know you guys aren't pre-war guys. I'm just a little pre-war nerd over here.
But we got
T205 cigarette set precede, or I don't know if it precedes C206, but from the Jefferson Burdick registry precedes it. It is known for its really strong gold borders. And there was an SGC 1.5 Ty Cobb I found at auction last night that set the all-time sale for a 1.5 sale ever that I was tempted to bid up on, that I was getting into the bidding war on, that I was the underbidder on. And this card had very little whiting. It had tobacco staining on the back, which is a motif for my collecting. And the corners had very little to no rounding and were mostly rectangular. I was gonna say, I was like, what complex word can I think to describe that? But no, they're just like, sharp corners.
Sharp corners. There you go.
That I think probably the tobacco staining on the back made it limit to a 1.5. But I wanted the card. I wanted it bad, and I was okay being the largest SGC 1.5 sale on that card ever. But I didn't know how badly I wanted to be that record breaker.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, this is going to be the close. Well, we usually like to do most recent something cool you bought. Usually it's a card. I'm going to start off this week because I've been kind of skipping myself on this lately, and I do have a fun one that I'm excited about personally. I bought on eBay a 2004 Topps Gold out of 99 rare for Topps Gold Andre Iguodala rookie card here. Have not gotten this yet in hand. The golds in this year were out of 99, which is a lot more rare than most paper golds of Topps throughout the years. I decided I needed it because I have the KD 2007 Topps Gold rookie out of 2007. I have the Steph Curry Gold rookie Topps out of 2009. Had to complete the trifecta of the three dudes who've won Finals MVP for this team. So got the Iguodala, even though he's in the Sixers uni. I usually try to stay away from those, but got it for $30, free shipping. Out of 99, Hall of Famer, Finals MVP for, the first team that, was very important basketball team in my life. So felt like that was a great buy. $30. As Max said at the beginning, the $20 to $50 cards are my sweet spot. I will buy those a lot more than I probably should. But I have a lot of fun with them. I think that card should be worth more than $30. Therefore, I pressed bin, or I actually offered. Guy accepted. It was up for 55 or best offer. Offered 30. Guy accepted it. Did a little fist pump in my room by myself before I fell asleep. That was my buy of the week. Will, you want to go or you want to pass to Max and then come back?
What's the etiquette here? I want to.
No. If you have one off the top of your head, you go next.
Yeah. So I bought the thing that made me feel like I could just quit collecting forever because I did it. This was so. Even though we've talked about tickets a few times, it's not like I'm a massive ticket person. Like I have a handful of ones that I find cool, but and I do think they're interesting overall. Not even from an investment perspective, whether or not that's true. Just I think they're sick. And as we talked about earlier, like I'm a Yankees history nerd, baseball nerd, and Mickey Mantle is like I have this probably unhealthy, nostalgic, emotional connection with him that I just like. He's a mythological figure that I find endlessly interesting. And I believe the greatest sports photo of all time is of him throwing his helmet. And it was located. There's some great work done a few years ago by a guy who wrote it just on his like personal blog that came up about like he was like, all right, I'm gonna figure out when the fuck this picture is taken. It was for Life magazine. I found the date, and I saw that I was like, okay, I read this. I know the date. Let's see if it's ever sold. I found it sold at Heritage like 2 years ago or something. And then it popped up that a card story had bought it. Like maybe less than a year ago. And I was like, fuck, man, whatever. And then he DM'd me last week and he's like, hey, man, I'm selling it. And I couldn't have said yes faster. So I'm like, that's it. I don't need to ever buy anything ever again.
So wait, what was it that you bought though? Like a ticket?
Sorry, it was a ticket to that game. I think I want to say there's only like 2 in the whole PSA population. Because it's just a random game until people figured out that it was that the game where the photograph was taken. So
that's sick. I feel like photo matching is one of the coolest internet things out there right now of people doing cool work that's like kind of democratized. The guy Wax Museum podcast, who has like a basketball card podcast, he does it a lot with relics where he'll photo match relics to games and
so cool
stuff like that, and like pictures of cards to games. I think that I love when a card pictures from an important game or important moment. That's the sort of shit that I love. And will always buy stuff of. So I feel like the photo matching thing is not something me and Max have talked about too much, but is like a huge aspect of this topic that we've been discussing around like information about cards and how hard it is to find that information and the leaps that need to be made to make sure that like things that are cool are remembered as cool and like people understand the importance and significance of things. Photo matching is a huge aspect of it. And that's cool how you ended up finding that.
And it's crazy how more valuable something becomes once it is in fact photo matched.
Facts. Max, you're up though. What do you got for us this week? You gave us, I guess, your runner up.
I did. I gave my runner up, man. Some buys that I bought a T206 Walter Johnson portrait and an SGC1. I bought one 2 weeks ago, and now I have two. And this one is slightly worse, but I bought it, and it's really cool. I have also... What's up?
It's the big train, dude. Walter Johnson.
The big train, and now there's two big trains that will be on my desk. So that'll be fun. But that was from an auction house. From eBay, I've been like just diving into like trying to rummage some things for grading. I've now bought like 3 or 4 Sam Howell Contenders autos, and I'm just gonna try and like weasel a PSA 10. Thumbs down from Tommy. Tommy does not approve. I also got a Benedict Mathurin Contenders auto. That's cool. Better player. I'm not a Sam Howell fan. I don't think I've given the Wake Forest rant on this podcast before, but Sam Howell was a quarterback from the University of North Carolina. And I believe the Demon Deacons from Wake Forest were 9-0 or 8-0. And I want to say they were ranked 11th in the country this time, or not this time this year, but last fall. And UNC had a come from behind fourth quarter win that gave the Demon Deacons their first loss, and then led to more losses for them. So that hurt, even though that was an unimportant game. I bought a card that I believe you've owned before, a 2016 Topps Chrome Kendrick Lamar Refractor.
Nice.
That's also for the grading pile, maybe. Who knows? It's like 7 years old. And a Jamar Johnson Bowman Chrome first gold auto out of 50. Yeah. So that's been... I also bought a Walker... I think it's mentioned the Walker Kessler ticket gold from last week that I found out now has like a severely, extremely creased and damaged corner.
Oh, fuck. That sucks.
Yeah. So we'll see if eBay pulls through there. But that is, as you can tell, that's a lot of variety.
Yeah, I was going to say, Benedict Mathurin is one of the best prospect basketball players I've heard of you buying cards of. Usually you stick with the Cole Anthonys of the world or the Bones Highlands. So I'm glad to see you actually recognize some real basketball skill out there. So proud of you for that.
Pro Benedict? Well, I bought some Kuminga, and that turned out great.
Kuminga, I'm still cautiously optimistic on Kuminga. But Will, give us your shameless plugs. Where do people find you on a day-to-day basis? What should they do to support the cool newsletter and stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, just subscribe, I guess. I mean, my Twitter is Will Stern _. The link to the newsletter that I write is in my bio. It's Unwinding the Thread. And then, Rally. It's in my bio. And I write our weekly Sunday newsletter. Anything from T206 Honus stories about the Nuns Wagner to this week was about a day-date Rolex Stella dial, which I'm not a watch guy, so a lot of research went into that.
Nice. Well, mate, we'll put your links and everything too in the podcast, but I think the work that you're doing to like shine light on why collectibles are cool and the stories behind them that make them cool is like low key. And I'm not just saying this to hype you up, like absolutely essential work that is not being invested in enough. Please, Michael Rubin, give Will a massive contract to write card backs or good history on cards. Topps has this really shitty blog right now about like card 101. I forget what they call it, but it's shit. And I just want more history on collectibles in the context of history. I think it's just essential. It's the only way that the hobby is going to actually grow. And like, it also democratizes things kind of, I don't love the fact that collecting is only super accessible, to people that know where to find everything. If you don't have people that you're asking, like there's been people on Twitter who have just like out of the kindness of their heart given me a lot of direction on where to find information on cards that is not really super easy to find on the internet. The baseball card subreddit is full of dicks who tell you that just the worst people in the world are on that, telling you that your cards suck and that you should already know facts that you're asking about, just a shitty community. So, I'm going to say, Will, I am a huge fan of what you're doing and the writing that you do and the cool stories that you're telling. So I'm excited to see what you got coming in the works too.
That means a lot. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys having me on because I love what you guys do too. And I'm super fascinated just by the people like you guys who are like really, really doing this shit. You know what I mean? Like I'm a casual, right? Like I'm buying my Pete Sampras card because I want to have it and whatever. But like the business aspect of it, I don't have a fucking idea, right?
Yeah, same. That's why I got Max. Max, you got any parting words for the people at home?
Baseball cards good, but sometimes other collectibles good as well.
I like it.
Yeah.
See you guys next.